Okay, put yourself in this scenario for a second. Imagine you hold the literal keys to your company's entire digital life. We're talking every single email, every private chat, every password, every web search. It's all completely visible to you. What would you do with that kind of unlimited access? It's a pretty heavy question, isn't it?
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a world that is honestly a bit stressful, but absolutely fascinating, the realm of IT ethics. We're going to be looking at the people who build, maintain, and guard our networks, and the incredibly high-stakes moral dilemmas they have to navigate every single day. Because, as you'll see, in the digital age, having technical power almost always equals having massive human responsibility. To help us make sense of these complex gray areas, we're turning to a fantastic piece of source material, the IT Ethics Handbook, Right and Wrong for IT Professionals by Stephen Northcutt. We're going to focus right in on Chapter 1, which breaks down the profound ethical responsibilities placed squarely on the shoulders of system administrators. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. We'll be looking at the keys to the kingdom, architecture and implementation ethics, day-to-day system administration, the ethics of administrative spying, managing inappropriate system use, and finally, network and wireless dilemmas. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the keys to the kingdom, looking at the immense power of system administration. Now, it's absolutely crucial to understand the sheer scale of responsibility we're dealing with here. It's really not just about keeping the servers blinking and the internet running. It's about guarding the gate. The handbook defines system administration as the daily responsibilities of the administrator, things like monitoring the system, managing users and passwords, allocating resources, and running installations. But think about it. This isn't just about silicon and code. It's about managing human interactions with that tech. It's essentially a massive social responsibility disguised as a technical one. There's a great quote from William Ockham in the text that really hits the nail on the head. He says, "I'd say if you don't pay attention to separation of duties, you show a lack of professional ethics." Setting up the rules and ensuring no single person has unchecked power to cause catastrophic damage, that isn't just an IT best practice. It's a fundamental moral obligation to the entire organization. Moving right along to Section 2, architecture and implementation ethics, or building the foundation. Just like a physical architect designing a house in a hurricane zone has a duty to build it to withstand the wind, a system architect has a duty to build a network to withstand digital threats. But here is where the dilemmas start popping up. Imagine you're building a brand new, highly secure system, but it has to interact with an old, highly vulnerable legacy application. So, do you secure the whole environment, or do you just secure your specifically assigned project? Where does an architect's responsibility actually end? The text outlines two distinct schools of thought on this issue. On one side, you have the conservative view, which argues you absolutely must take the existing infrastructure into account in its entirety. It demands strict, layered protection as a baseline expectation, completely regardless of the legacy system's flaws. On the flip side, the liberal view takes a more pragmatic approach. It argues that scope depends entirely on your allocated time and budget. If fixing the old system isn't in the budget, well, it's not the architect's job to go beyond the project's scope. Neither perspective is inherently malicious, but they represent vastly different approaches to professional duty. Next up is Section 3, day-to-day system administration, and specifically the log-off dilemma. Often it's the simple, everyday actions that trigger massive ethical breaches. It's not always some grand architectural flaw. Sometimes it's literally just human error. Let's put you back in the hot seat with a super relatable scenario from the book. You're working late, you step out to grab some dinner, and you accidentally leave your admin account logged in. Oops. While you're gone, unauthorized activity occurs on your terminal. Now you have the skills to easily alter the log files to hide your mistake and save your job. The question is, do you do it? Well, here's the kicker. The text notes that whether you approach IT ethics from a strict conservative viewpoint or a flexible liberal viewpoint, altering logs with significant security events to cover your own tracks is universally condemned. It completely destroys the integrity of the system just to save one person's pride or paycheck. It's a huge red flag. Which brings us to Section 4, the ethics of administrative spying, also known as the invisible eye. Because system administrators can technically see everything, the big question quickly becomes, when is it actually okay for them to look? The source features a really interesting perspective from legal expert John W. Dozier, Jr. He states, "I consider it unethical to not apprise a new employee of such a policy until after he comes to work for your company." He's pointing out that while corporate spying through software might be 100% legal, hiding it from employees makes it an absolute ethical minefield. Transparency is the dividing line here. So how do administrators actually handle this in practice? Well, the conservative view holds that personal privacy is a fundamental right. They believe it's completely unacceptable to spy unless a specific activity directly puts company resources at risk. The liberal view, however, counters that administrators have to proactively monitor system use for security purposes and actually should pay close attention to high-risk individuals. It's a classic clash between the right to individual privacy and the hardcore necessity of corporate security.
Let's pivot to Section 5, Managing Inappropriate System Use. Welcome to the gray area. What happens when administrators catch the very people they work with misusing the systems they built? The source brilliantly illustrates the vast array of inappropriate behaviors a sysadmin has to police every single day. We aren't just talking about malicious hackers here. We're talking about your coworkers sharing privileged access, playing computer games, downloading MP3s, blasting out mass personal emails, or even, and the book actually highlights this, secretly selling corporate bandwidth to outside businesses. No way, right? But it happens.
When it comes to enforcing these rules, the two perspectives butt heads once again. The conservative approach demands strict adherence to policy. If someone downloads unauthorized MP3s or gets caught playing games, you report them to management immediately. Zero tolerance. The liberal approach suggests taking a step back and using caution. Enforcing every minor infraction so rigidly can quickly alienate the IT team from the rest of the company, creating political hot water that makes the sysadmin's job practically impossible. It's all about weighing the strict letter of the law against the very human reality of maintaining good working relationships in the office.
Finally, let's look outside the building with Section 6, Network and Wireless Dilemmas, and these invisible boundaries. When data is invisible and flying through the air, physical boundaries disappear, and ethical boundaries get incredibly blurry. Here is a super common modern dilemma posed in the text. Picture this. The business next door has a weak, unsecured wireless network. Their signal is literally bleeding through the walls right into your office space. Since they essentially left their digital front door wide open, is it ethical for you to just tap into it?
Again, the handbook presents two distinct sides. The conservative view says it is never appropriate. It's an invasion of privacy, plain and simple, and ethically you should actually go next door and inform the neighboring company of their vulnerability. The liberal view argues that simply checking it out of benign curiosity is okay, provided you strictly avoid any form of malicious attack or data theft. But the source text offers a really brilliant analogy to strip away the tech jargon and get to the heart of the matter. It asks, if someone left a $100 bill in a lost jacket, would you keep it or return it? Taking advantage of the weaknesses of others highlights who you are as a human being. I love that. It grounds the abstract, invisible concept of wireless hacking into a very physical, relatable moral choice. To wrap up our understanding of all these heavy dilemmas, the handbook points us to the 10 commandments of computer ethics. Some core selections include: don't use a computer to harm others, don't snoop in other people's files, don't use resources without authorization, and importantly, always think about the social consequences of the system you are designing. It's just a great grounding reminder that technical decisions always have profound social consequences. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. As you go about your work today, sending emails, browsing the web, logging into servers, who is watching your digital footprint? And more importantly, what ethical compass is guiding the invisible administrators wielding that immense power over your digital life? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking those hard questions, and we'll see you next time.